Hi everyone, my name is Nancy Truong and today I'm going to be discussing some of the various psychological concepts that are visible in the movie Marriage Story, including intimacy and intimate relationships, jealousy, and a social need for affiliation. Now let's talk a bit about what Noah Baumbach's film Marriage Story is about. We have Charlie Barber, played by Adam Driver, and his wife Nicole, played by Scarlett Johansson. The film follows Charlie, a stage director, and his actor wife Nicole as they struggle through a grueling coast-to-coast divorce that pushes them to their personal and creative extremes, while also trying to navigate dealing with lawyers and figuring out custody of their son Henry. And as you view their painful separation, you can also see glimpses of both the love and the resentment that has been abundant throughout their marriage. Let's take a look at this clip from the film where Nicole is reading a letter that the mediator had requested she write about Charlie.
What I love about Charlie, he loves being a dad. It's almost annoying how much he likes it. He cries easily in movies.
I cried 4 times.
Me too.
He's very competitive.
What's this? Who owns Baltic Avenue?
He's very clear about what he wants. He's a great dresser. He never looks embarrassing, which is hard for a man. He takes all of my moods steadily. He doesn't make me feel bad about them. He rarely gets defeated, which I feel like I always do. I thought we should talk.
Okay. I don't know how to start.
With you, my love, life has been so wonderful.
I'd first like to discuss the concept of a need for affiliation. The American Psychological Association defines it as a desire to have personal relationships with other individuals, which manifests itself in the urge to form friendships and attachments and to join organizations and enjoy social gatherings. People with a high need for affiliation often seek the approval and acceptance of others. Now let's first consider Charlie Barber's position as a theater director. During some monologue, Nicole discusses how Charlie is brilliant at creating family out of whoever he's around. With the theater company, he cast a spell that made everyone included. No one, not even the intern, was unimportant. He could remember all the inside jokes. This is a clear example of a need for affiliation. Let's consider the journal article, Sharing the Emotional Load. Recipient affiliation calms down the storyteller. The researchers found that after viewing and analyzing both audio and video of 20 recordings of 45 to 60 minute dyadic conversations between female university and polytechnic students, the recipients have some level of arousal based on electrodermal activity. This tells us that there is indeed a successful level of arousal for the recipients, which in turn creates that connectedness, that need for affiliation that we as social humans strive for, especially someone in a position such as Charlie Barber's. Now this brings us to intimacy and intimate relationships. The APA defines this as an interpersonal state of extreme emotional closeness, such that each party's personal space can be entered by any of the other parties without causing discomfort to that person. Intimacy categorizes close, familiar, and usually affectionate or loving personal relationships and requires the party to have a detailed knowledge or deep understanding of each other, such as we view in marriage. There are 3 basic components of intimate relationships: feelings of attachment, affection and love, fulfillment of psychological needs, and interdependence between partners. Marriage Story does a fantastic job of portraying not just that their marriage was falling apart and maybe could have been salvaged, but that the dissolution of it and the tearing apart of their intimacy is having a larger impact than perhaps they anticipated. The lack of fulfillment Nicole experiences due to putting her career on hold and her psychological needs and requests being ignored and not being met by Charlie, to Charlie's one-time affair affecting their intimacy as a married couple, and their lack of communication. However, let's take a closer look specifically at how this intimacy is affected in terms of fulfillment of psychological needs. Nicole had mentioned to Charlie previously of her desires to relocate to California, of pursuing her film and television career, a request that was met with multiple false promises and disregards from Charlie, clearly causing their levels of intimacy to be affected to the point of lack of communication and even infidelity, something that can be witnessed again in our own society across various cultures. And we can see the effects of how important having psychological needs met in a partnership, romantic or otherwise, can be crucial. And after the breakup, interpreting divorce and rethinking intimacy, the researchers focus on what divorced men and women looked for in a current relationship in terms of qualities by conducting some interviews of 21 men and women who had recently divorced. The results, not surprisingly, demonstrated that those qualities that were the cause of the initial divorce are exactly what these divorced persons seeked for in their current unions. Let's also look at jealousy portrayed in Marriage Story. Jealousy is defined by the APA as a negative emotion in which an individual resents a third party for appearing to take away or being likely to take away the affections of a loved one. Jealousy requires a triangle of social relationships between three individuals: the one who is jealous, the partner with whom the jealous individual has or desires a relationship, and the rival, who represents a preemptive threat to that relationship. This can oftentimes be viewed in how Charlie and Nicole interact with each other when discussing child custody arrangements, but is especially visible when Nicole makes Halloween plans for their son that do not involve Charlie. There's oftentimes a back and forth, and jealousy becomes apparent. Even when Charlie's affair is discussed, the jealousy is not as apparent as it is when their relationship with their son is put through the ringer of a messy divorce. Jealousy can also be witnessed in how Charlie and Nicole argue over Nicole's career as an actress being stalled because of Charlie's playwright status, and how at times she was held back so that Charlie could flourish in his career. Jealousy breeds resentment at times, which leads to difficulties in having those psychological needs met, those needs that are so important to each individual in the relationship. Let's take as an example the research titled Communication Among Parents Who Share Physical Custody After Divorce or Separation. The researchers were able to look at 30 men and women sharing joint legal custody of their children after having either divorced or separated. What was interesting in observing the results of the study is that divorce and separation do not end the relationship between former partners, but instead transforms it, and various societal factors that influence how these parents will now co-parent, including any other partners that may enter the field, so to speak. This will, based on research, change what information parents will then share with the other parent in terms of their children. Why? Well, in part because of feelings of jealousy. In closing, Baumbach's Marriage Story does a beautiful and painful job at capturing the various degrees in which divorce and separation can affect not only our social circles, but the psychological ripple effect it can have on society as a whole, as well as serving as a great example of various concepts that we have been able to learn about this semester. Thank you.